Hi, Eduardo. Welcome. Uh, can you give an example of your life, and how you achieved an objective?
Um, yeah, I think so. I used to be in the military, and so basically, I could tell you a million stories about how they told me to do something and seemed nearly impossible, because that's basically every single day. They're always testing you one way or another, even if they trust you. But I think the hardest part for me about being in the military, and the biggest objective that I've ever had to overcome, even now, was getting out of the military. Because you go from having this network of people that teach you everything, and then even if you fail to meet the standard, you have hundreds of guys that are gonna help you. Make sure you tie your shoe, or whatever it is. And then when you get out, it's like they're still your friends, but they're not holding your hand in a way, kind of like your best friend or your parents would. Making sure you do what you're supposed to do. So you're just on your own. And I was just really lost when that happened. Just one day you wake up and they're like, you can leave now. And so it was just kind of like, okay, well, and at this point, I was 21, 22, so I'm not going to my mom. So it's not the same going to my mom and asking her for help, and I can't ask my friends. And so I think that's a huge obstacle I overcame, was what do I do next? What's my next big career step, or life step? And I picked a job. I just picked a random job at a gym, and then found out I hated it, after about a year. But I knew I hated it early on. But I was like, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to have a job, and eventually you get promoted, and yada yada. And then so I ended up just finding out I hated it. I was up really late all the time trying to think of ways to get out of it. And then I was just finally decided school is the best way. Going to school, that'll give me time to learn things and look for a job that's gonna actually make me happy. And I'm happy now. And it's not like I made it. I'm not I'm making $1 million a day or a month, but I'm happy. And I think and I'm making decisions for myself now. And I think that I should have been able to do that, but it was just such a big shock that I couldn't right away. So I'm happy now. I'm happy with that.
Great. What happens when you think you're going to fail and you actually end up succeeding?
It's weird because I'm not saying I don't have high expectations for myself. It's just sometimes I think I have too high of expectations. So when I don't feel like I did a 12 out of 10, I'm kind of a little unhappy about it. But when I do succeed, when it's not when I'm not holding myself to these crazy standards and I do succeed and I didn't think I was gonna, I don't really let it get to my head. I celebrate it, I celebrate the fact that I did it, I acknowledge it, all the little victories and the big ones, but I don't let it get to my head and think I'm the best at changing tires, or I'm the best lasagna maker, or every time I do this I succeed. I kind of just take it in and I'm all right, let's keep that going, keep doing a good job.
Wonderful. Why is creative expression important to you?
It's important to me because it's easy to see somebody and then what they're wearing. If you see somebody a lot, or the first time you see them, it's easy to be oh, that guy probably plays a lot of golf and he's a nerd, or oh, that guy is really cool, or it's really easy to judge somebody. And I think when that happens and then you get to show them that you're not that person that they think you are through creativity, can really change the way you look at people. And so I think it's a really good way to set you apart and really show who you are.
Great. Give an example of an obstacle that you've experienced and how did you overcome it?
This one's kind of a long, it's a string of things, an obstacle, just overcoming it, I guess. So growing up, I was a real traditional Mexican family. So everybody looks after one another. And when you're a kid, even when you're 18 years old, you could be 20 years old, and your family's gonna treat you like you're 8. They're gonna be oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. They're they kind of just treat you like a kid, always. In a traditional Mexican family, it's just like that. You could, be 18 and move out, but your family's gonna treat you like a kid and think you can't do it on your own. They just really look out for you. it's not that they don't believe in you, they're just trying to protect you. And so to me, the way that made me feel was like my family thought like I couldn't do anything on my own. And so that's kind of why I decided to, and I kind of adopted that like mentality. I was like, I don't know if I could do that alone. Like I need my mom, or I need my uncle, you know, or like my grandpa or somebody. And so what I kind of did to finally shake that was, as soon as I turned 17, I like enlisted in the military. And you're not allowed to leave when you're 17. You have to be 18, and you have to get your mom's approval or your parents' approval. And I think that's kind of like how I did it. I shook that mindset, like I can't do anything on my own. And I mean, literally that was it. You know, you just cut the like your family out, you know, and you're like, I'm gonna do it on my own now.
Very nice.
How long were you in the military?
For 4 years.
Can you list some things that you bring to the table that define your personality or uniqueness?
Yeah, I mean, everywhere that I've always worked, even in, like, I had jobs before the military. You know, I was like 16, 17, 18. I was working at a custard place. And the guy that hired me was like a freshman in college. He was like my manager. He was just like disgruntled, you know. He's like, I'm just here to pay for my school, pay for my gas, kind of thing. And he always told me he liked that he hired me and he liked having me around because even though I was a lot younger than him, that I had like a good personality, like good sense of humor. That we were doing the same thing. It was like dirty work, you know. I mean, it's like it's just custard, but you're getting dirty. You're making people things. You're just getting dirty, and you're sticky the whole time. You know, like think about just like having like ice cream just dropped all over your hands, and like toppings are just sticking to you. And I was just like, I'm at work, you know, like I'm gonna do work, but I'm gonna try to have fun. You know, like make sure everybody around me isn't kind of in a good mood if I can help it. And that's kind of what I've always done with every job that I've ever had.
Great. Pertaining to that, what experiences have you had working with a diverse group of people?
So I started working when I first got out of the military after the job, like the personal training and at the gym. I started working at a brewery, and it was like when breweries were kind of like getting popular, like craft beers and everything. I know they're like super popular now. But I didn't really understand them then, and everybody that worked there was really into craft beers, and I didn't know anything. I was like, I drink Bud Lights, you know, like I like just regular, like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. And so they would always talk about how it's made, like all the science behind it, and I was just kind of like, I don't really care about that, but I'll listen, you know, I'm like, I'll engage, you know, so it was just kind of like, I felt really out of place. Kind of, but I just kind of was like, you know what, like every day I learned a little bit more, and I did start gaining interest. I'm like, in the beginning I was like, I don't really care, but you know, as it went on, I was just kind of like, I could see why you like this. There's a lot that goes into it, you know. It's just at that time I was like, it doesn't taste like beer. It tastes like hops. Now that I know that it's hops, you know, like I didn't know that that's what that was, and so just like it was just weird at the beginning, and then it like got better.
Right on. How do you handle rejection or failure?
Kind of like the way I said, I go about it with like success. I don't let it get to my head too much, because it happens a lot, you know, in like this field, like more than you would think. Everybody talks about it, but it happens like all the time. And I'm just kind of like, all right, like, you know, was it me? Was it like what I wore? You know, sometimes I overthink it. I'm like, is it something I said? Was somebody else better than me? And then I'm just like, you know, like that just wasn't the one for me, I guess. You know, like I'll keep trying to get better, doing the things that I know people like about me, things that people have told me in the past. And then the things that people were like, oh, try this next time. I'll just keep trying to be persistent with what I know most people want, how I am. I try to stay like true to myself, basically.
Great. What is your favorite TV show or film, and why?
My favorite TV show is probably Parks and Rec. Just because I watch it a lot with my girlfriend, and we'll just like wake up in the morning, she's doing her thing, and I'm doing my thing, like getting ready in the kitchen, making some sort of breakfast, and she'll just like scream like some quote out of the movie. Like it could be anything, and I'm like, oh, I love that show, like we should watch it again for the 100th time. And it's funny because my favorite one to say is like, how they're always just how they love Lil Sebastian. I don't know if you've ever seen the show. There's like a little miniature horse,
Yeah.
and they always sing like the "Bye Bye Lil Sebastian," and it's just like the first thing one of us says when we see each other, and it's just like reminds me how much I love the show. Just like the sense of humor.
That's funny. What has drawn you to this profession?
Because it's fun, honestly, and I know you have to work hard still. You have to show up. You know, you have to put in effort. But what I've noticed from having a lot of different kinds of jobs is it led me here. It kind of led me to this field because when I've experienced it, the bits of it that I've experienced, I've had a lot of fun. And I really like we have to do this, we have to do that. I like the chaos. I like the chaos before everybody like sits down and or is in their spot, and it's just like that's fun to me. The fact that it's like a tornado and then it all comes together and everybody's like happy to be doing what it's like a tornado, but everybody's like fine with it. Everyone's like, this is our tornado, we know what's going on, like it'll calm down.
All right, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Definitely in this field. I want to be like a casting associate, casting director, because I can think of like the first time I ever like got an email and a text and a phone call that was like, hey, you got your first casting. And I was like, what do I do? I was like, should I go on a run? Should I like try makeup on? And I was just so like, what do I do so they like me? And I was just like, it was just such a crazy opportunity. And it was just a casting. They weren't like, you got it. It was just that part. And so I just remember how nervous I was and how fun it was to be there and then not get it. And then later you get one and you do the same thing for a long time, and I just want to be on the other end because I feel like I have a very good taste of like personalities. I can really tell if somebody is being honest, if they're nervous, because I know like so many times I show up nervous even though it's like the 100th one, and I feel like I can tell like if I have a really good judge of character and I'm like, he's just nervous but I really like that personality, like he just needs like one more time. And so I want to be there like helping people and like reading that, because it's easy when you get rejected, like we were talking about earlier, to be like, it's because I was nervous, like talk yourself down and be like, when you're on the other end, it's easy to be like, oh, they just didn't know I was nervous, And I feel like I can see that. Like if somebody's nervous or scared or they're having a bad day, but they are like a good character, like good, they fit the talent, I feel like I can, I'd be a good judge for that. Like, yeah, bring him back one more time. Like he needs to calm down or she needs to calm down, but she's good.
So what kind of direction would you give someone who is right for the role in your estimation as a casting director, but that person's a bit nervous, or what would you do outside of saying, just relax?
Well, what's worked a lot with me is when I walk in and I see everybody sitting there, like, there's the one guy with the camera, the main casting guy, and then maybe there's 4 guys in the back that are also casting, or they're gonna talk about it. They're gonna be like, we liked him, like, they're all looking at you, everybody's kind of picking. What's really helped me a lot is like they talk to you. Like if like 3 people go and they can tell everybody was like so nervous, they're like, all right, like sorry, like it took us to the 3rd person, but relax, like pretend like you're with your friends, like like because the spots for like let's say the spots for like you're at a cookout with your friends, like really just they're like, think about it, you're just with your friends, we're your just look at us like we're your friends. And that's always helped me, because when they show you their personality, they show you that they're just people too. It's because it's crazy when you walk in and you see them all like staring at you, you're like, I have to impress all these people, like they're probably really mean or like really like hard judgers. But when they laugh with you, or they're like, when they're like, oh, I remember one time I went to barbecue and I spilled barbecue sauce on me, they tell you like a quick like think about that, so you're like, okay, like they're people too. Like it's weird how you're just like, oh, they're people.